Welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. So, will Cardinal Burke become the next Pope? That's what we're talking about today. We've looked at several other contenders so far. We've looked at Cardinal Sarah. We've examined the top 5 contenders. But some people are saying that Cardinal Burke is also a contender that needs to be considered. And so we're going to do that today. But before we do that, I want to remind you, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel, and hit the like button as well if you want more people to see this video and if you appreciate it. All right, so what I want to do first of all is just kind of take a stroll through Twitter, if you will. Just kind of take a look on social media, what people are saying about Cardinal Burke. And then we're going to take a look at what Cardinal Burke's positions are on a number of important things that will be considered by the cardinal electors in the conclave on May 7th. And then lastly, based on that, we'll kind of determine whether or not he is a strong contender or if there's only a remote chance here. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at what people are saying on X. And yes, I see some people in the chat saying Trump wants to be the next pope. I did see that. That's pretty hilarious. You do have, however, there are some conditions for being pope. You have to be a male, and you have to be a Catholic. Trump is a male, but he is not a Catholic, and so he technically would not qualify. I suspect that he was speaking tongue in cheek and knows that he would not qualify. Then again, maybe that's not the case. Maybe he actually thinks that he is eligible. Who knows? How would that work, though, as president of the United States? Would he also accept the papacy if chosen? It's an interesting thing to consider. All right, I digress. Back to the question at hand. Let's take a look at what some people on Twitter are saying. These are, not in any particular order and somewhat random in nature. But look, you can do a pretty quick keyword search for Cardinal Burke on X and see people wanting to see him pope. I mean, here you have one account saying, the church today needs a man like Cardinal Burke. He has spoken gently, firmly, faithfully. If the Lord calls him to the throne of Peter, it will not be for his popularity, but for his steadfastness. May the Lord bless us with a saintly and holy pope, this individual says. Then you have others who say Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke or Cardinal Robert Sarah, who I already reviewed Sarah in a previous video, are the best to be pope in this age and time for great rapid reforms. May God hear our prayers. Our Lady of Guadalupe, he says, please intercede for us. A next account here says, Cardinal Burke has just turned 72. So please pray that God grants him many more years. And so he certainly will be voting. He's within that age range, so he will be voting for the next pope. And he's kind of in that age range where you could see him being elected as pope if you're just considering the age here. They don't tend to go for someone too young, right? Because then you might have a really long papacy that might not be that good. They also don't want to elect somebody that may pass away the next day and then they got to elect somebody else again. So they kind of look for somebody there in the 70s age range. Here you got another one. In Italy, an old video of Cardinal Raymond Burke in Florence is circulating on social media with plenty of ironic takes. In reality, the Kappa Magna is a symbol of ecclesiastical dignity. It's removed during the ceremony to signify humility and renunciation of worldly goods. And they're talking here about Cardinal Burke and his attire here. And you see a lot of people circulating this video saying this would be great. This would restore tradition in the Catholic Church. And so you can kind of see that there with this video. Moving forward, this person says, wow, just look at this. Cardinal Raymond Burke would make the papacy beautiful again as the next pope. And so those who are wanting to see a revival liturgically, especially towards the Latin Mass, the traditional or Tridentine Latin Mass, those who want to see it less restricted and more pervasive, and those who want to see the Novus Ordo kind of go back in that direction of the Latin Mass, they're going to look for someone like Cardinal Burke, because Cardinal Burke, of course, has celebrates the Novus Ordo, but he also is very big into celebrating the Latin Mass and bringing back liturgical piety and a strong sense of the liturgy and in divine worship. And so, if you're looking for that, if that's something valuable to you, you're going to be looking to someone like Cardinal Burke to possibly be elected. Here's something else that I actually just reviewed a couple of days ago. This comment from Cardinal Burke in 2016 saying Christians and Muslims do not worship the same God. And a lot of people are sharing this on social media, and they're kind of cheering him on, and they're really happy that Cardinal Burke might be considered a pope in this next conclave, and certainly will himself vote for the next pope. And so they're hoping that somebody who they deem to be someone who is staunchly Orthodox, who will lay the smack down, if you will, towards the Muslims, they're hoping that someone like that will be elected. And so, again, separate matter on the comments there and how that works with Vatican II, and already did that in the previous video. Here we're just kind of evaluating how he's in the conversation. People are talking about him on social media, they're bringing him up, they're kind of cheering him on and stuff like that. You have a website that I've looked at before, collegeofcardinalsreport.com. I don't necessarily agree with everything in here, but you might find it as a helpful tool to one degree or another, and kind of giving you an idea of who the cardinal electors are, including Cardinal Burke. It has a brief summary of his biography and kind of where he stands on some important issues that people on social media deem to be noteworthy. So here's some key data about him. Born in 1948, therefore actually 76 years old, not 72, I apologize. 76 years old, in Richland Center, Wisconsin, in the United States. And so if he's elected, this would be the first pope who is from the United States. And he was made a cardinal in the consistory in 2010 by Pope Benedict XVI. He also was the prefect for the Apostolic Signatura in Rome, so he held a really high position at the Vatican until Pope Francis removed him from that ministry. So he is a cardinal priest. And as far as a summary of his bio, youngest of 6 children, and a family closely connected to its Irish immigrant roots. He recalls with fondness the instruction in the Catholic faith that he received by his parents as a child, so he was reared in the Catholic faith. After time as a seminarian at the Catholic University of America in the U.S., he was sent to Rome, where he studied at the Jesuits' Pontifical Gregorian University. In 1975, he was ordained a priest by Pope Paul VI. After a few years of pastoral work and teaching, he was sent back to the Gregorian, where he completed a doctorate in canon law. Returning in 1983 to the Diocese of La Crosse, Wisconsin, where he served as moderator of the Curia and vice chancellor, John Paul II called Burke back to Rome a third time in 1989 to serve the Apostolic Signatura as the first American-appointed defender of the bond. At this time, Burke also taught canon law at his alma mater. In 1995, Burke was ordained bishop by John Paul II and appointed bishop of La Crosse. During his tenure, Bishop Burke conceived of building a great shrine dedicated to Our Lady of Guadalupe. It was finally dedicated in 2008. Widely recognized as an expert in canon law, Burke was brought back to Rome a 4th time under Pope Benedict XVI, who appointed him prefect of the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura, effectively the Church's Supreme Court. He was elevated to cardinal in 2010, and since then has continued his work in canon law among many other apostolates. 2014, Cardinal Burke's term at the Apostolic Signatura ended, and instead of renewing it, Pope Francis appointed him patron of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. In 2017, Pope Francis returned him to the Apostolic Signatura, appointing him a member of the Church's highest court to allow him to serve as one of the court's judges when needed. So not the prefect, but a member. A week before he turned 75 in June 2023, Pope Francis replaced Cardinal Burke as Cardinal Patron of the Order of Malta, although he had been in that role without responsibility since 2017. Widely recognized as one of the church's foremost experts in canon law, Burke is also known for his internationally for his worldwide international apostolic work, including his support for right to life causes, the traditional liturgy, the Latin Mass, devotion to the Holy Eucharist, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and the Sacred Heart. So in his curial experience as prefect of the Apostolic Signatura, as well as curial appointments, he manifested a commitment to implementing the teachings of the Church in accordance with Catholic tradition and the Second Vatican Council. But he purposely resisted entering into petty games within the Curia, adhering instead to applying church law with fairness and justice. He's known for his fidelity to the doctrine of the Church, which has sometimes provoked a vociferous criticism from people within the Church. And so he's proficient in Latin, French, Italian, and may not be an expert in Spanish, but he has delivered bilingual homilies in that language. Then it talks about his relationship with Pope Francis. We've talked about that at great length already on this channel. 2021, the Cardinal was taken very ill with COVID, came close to death, but then recovered after that. So where does he stand? Where does Cardinal Burke stand? Well, this is important because you got to think, okay, it's not about what I want to be, who I want to be the Pope. It's not about who you want to be the Pope. It's about who the cardinal electors want to be Pope. That's all that really matters as far as making the decision, right? So let's see where he stands and then kind of consider whether or not this would be somebody that the cardinal electors would go for. He's opposed to ordaining female deacons, right? And so he's opposed to any kind of women's ordination. So not just for the episcopate, not just for the priesthood, but also for the diaconate. He's been pretty outspoken about that. He was very outspoken against fiducia supplicans that spoke of blessings for homosexual couples. He's very much against that. And so if the cardinal electors are looking for someone who is opposed to women's ordination, opposed to fiducia supplicans and the blessing of homosexual couples, he seems to be a strong contender already, right? He is opposed to making priestly celibacy optional in the Latin Rite. Of course, you already have that optional in the Eastern churches, but for the Latin Rite, it's not optional for the most part. There are a few Latin Rite married priests, but they are exceptions. A lot of people don't know about that. Father Dwight Longenecker is one of those Latin Rite married priests. But for the most part, this is a strict discipline in the West, and he's opposed to making that optional. There have been conversations on whether or not this should be optional and kind of opening up the priesthood to married men because some argue there's already a shortage of candidates for the priesthood, and so more men are needed. And if they open it up to married men in the Latin Rite, that would solve the problem, some have argued. Well, he's opposed to that. He's also opposed to restricting the Latin Mass. Pope Francis, with Traditionis Custodes, implemented some restrictions on the Latin Mass in particular places, especially at the parish level. And he's opposed to that. He's really big into the Latin Mass and likely would reverse the reversal of the reversal of the reversal on this matter. Because Summorum Pontificum of Benedict was a reversal of Paul VI. And then Traditionis Custodes of Francis was a reversal of Summorum Pontificum of Benedict XVI. And so if he's made Pope, he's going to reverse the reversal of the reversal of the reversal. Because also Paul VI thing was kind of a reversal of the Tridentine liturgy in some ways. And so there would be a reversal of the reversal of the reversal. I've lost count. But he would be in favor of kind of reversing what Pope Francis has done there with Traditionis Custodes and freeing up access to the Latin Mass in many parish locations that have been restricted under Pope Francis's pontificate with Traditionis Custodes. And by the way, thank you so much, AJ, for that super sticker. He says, awesome analysis. I appreciate it. Okay, so the Vatican-China secret deal, we don't know a whole lot about it because it is just that. It is a secret deal between the Vatican and the government of China. And so we don't know a whole lot about it, but he's opposed to the China deal. Whatever it is, he's opposed to it. Promoting a synodal church, he's staunchly opposed to that. He thinks that this is compromising the ecclesiology of the Catholic Church. He thinks that the life of the church itself is at stake. So if the church continues to go down the synodal path, Cardinal Burke thinks that the Catholic Church will cease to be the Catholic Church. So he's very strong against Pope Francis's synodal church, not necessarily what the Germans call the synodal path. Pope Francis's vision of that was very different, but he's opposed to Pope Francis's vision of the synodal church and the synod on synodality. It was very vocal and very open about opposing Pope Francis on that during the synod on synodality. Not at all really your guy who's going to focus on stuff like ecology and climate change. He's not at all open to reassessing Humanae Vitae and the church's position on artificial contraception. He's not at all willing to reopen questions on that. Not at all in favor of Amoris Laetitia and Pope Francis's decisions there on the case of some people who are divorced and remarried receiving communion. He's not for that at all. Says absolutely no, and is again very opposed to what Pope Francis did with Amoris Laetitia. If you recall the dubia situation, he was one of the 4 cardinals who submitted a dubia, effectively questioning Pope Francis's decision with Amoris Laetitia. And then, of course, he's very opposed to the German synodal way, what the German bishops are doing. And we know right now in Regnum, the German bishops have gone ahead and disobeyed Pope Francis's orders to them when he was alive and have gone out on a limb and done some pretty wild stuff now that Pope Francis passed away. And so if the College of Cardinals or the cardinal electors are looking for somebody who's going to get the German bishops in line, he's your man. Okay, so if they're looking for somebody who's like staunchly a traditionalist, what's deemed to be a traditionalist in the church today, so what people commonly refer to as a traditionalist, he's your guy, right? So if the College of Cardinals are looking for somebody like that, he's going to be the top contender, if not Cardinal Sarah. It'd kind of be between them and maybe your Cardinal, a Cardinal Mueller. So he's right on up there if they're looking for something like that. And again, that's a different question of who they should be looking for or who you want to be chosen or who I want to be chosen, right? Who I want, who you want, who they should want is different than who they will want. Those are not all the same, right? Okay, it's important for us to be aware of those distinctions, right? So we have to kind of put ourselves in the minds of the cardinal electors, the 130 or so cardinals who are going to choose the next pope. Are they going to look for somebody like this? Well, again, sharing my screen, you have someone like Taylor Marshall who estimates there's only about 18 conservative cardinals in the entire 130 something who will choose the next pope. That's his estimation. Some give higher numbers than that and say there's about 25 conservative and 5 traditionalists. That would put it at 30, right? So just kind of depending on who the person is estimating this, you might find some people who say there's 30 conservative cardinals. Some say there's less than that, only maybe about 18 or so. And so lists will vary, numbers will vary, but if let's say you being generous, you got 30 or so who are conservative in nature, does that get you a 2/3 vote for Cardinal Burke? Because you got to remember again, the cardinal electors to elect someone have to have 2/3 vote plus 1, and so 2/3 out of 130 something, right? Well, 30 is not going to be 2/3. I tell you right now, that's not even a third, right? That's what maybe a fourth. Just spitballing it here. So clearly, there are not enough conservatives right now in the College of Cardinals who will vote for and elect the next pope who are going to look for somebody conservative, let alone traditional. Again, because you got to remember, Cardinal Burke is not just conservative, he's a traditional cardinal or traditionalist, right? Um, how many traditionalist cardinals are there? There's only about five of them, only about five out of 130 or so. So, how many votes would you likely get for a Cardinal Burke? Five, maybe 10 at the most. That's not going to be the 2/3 of 130, right? Um, so you need to keep that in mind. Um, moving on also to this point, you have about 10 cardinal electors who are going to vote in this next conclave from the United States. Now, these 10 are not necessarily conservative. They're not certainly not traditional. Um, so out of those 10 who might want to see one of their own from the United States, how many of them would really be likely to vote for Cardinal Burke? Well, I don't think any of them would. Whether they should is a different question, but whether or not they actually would, of course, Cardinal Burke is one of those 10. Whether the other nine would vote for Cardinal Burke, I think is outrageously unlikely, right? And so you can consider that as well. But even let's say you got the nine there and you got like 30 others who are in favor of them, like 30 conservative. That's 39 out of 130 something. That's still not your 2/3. So, um, I think that Cardinal Burke is really going to struggle to get serious supporters in this conclave. Um, and then also, I do want to point out, as some people are pointing out, the College of Cardinals or the Cardinals held their general congregation meeting today at the Vatican, and the Holy See press office released this. Awareness emerged of the risk of the church becoming too self referential and losing her relevance if she does not live in the world and with the world. There were also important references to ecumenical dialogue and mission. Now, you have to ask you if that's kind of the direction they're looking at, in addition to others who have expressed that they want to see a Francis 2.0. That's kind of where the mindset of the Cardinals are. Is Cardinal Burke a Francis 2.0? No, he's quite the exact opposite. He was actually known very much for being very contentious and very much opposed to Pope Francis's pontificate. He said numerous magisterial acts of Pope Francis that they're not magisterial. He deemed some of Pope Francis's teachings to be heretical. He accused Pope Francis of engaging in idolatry in Rome, and often undermined him at every turn. So is he a Pope Francis 2.0? No, he's a reversal. He's a Pope Francis negative 2.0, right? So he's the exact opposite. He would be more likely to reverse the entire pontificate of Pope Francis than to continue on his legacy. And so if the cardinal electors are looking for a 2.0 of Pope Francis, they're not going to find that in Cardinal Burke. And in addition, this statement right here indicates that they're looking for somebody who's going to be somewhat worldly in nature and look worldly in nature, and is going to be open to kind of ecumenism and dialogue. And you got to ask, has Cardinal Burke been that guy? Well, no, he's very much not the guy of ecumen. If you think of ecumenism and dialogue, do you think of Cardinal Burke? No, you don't. You don't, not at all. So if that's kind of what they're looking for, you got to ask, is this someone that is Cardinal Burke somebody that would fit that bill? Again, different question of whether you want to see him Pope, different question of whether I want to see him Pope, different question of whether the Cardinals should see him as Pope, different question of should he be elected Pope. The question is, in their mentality, their mindset, what they're looking for, the 2/3 of these Cardinals, are they looking for someone like Burke? That's all that matters today. It's all that matters. Are they looking for someone like that? Based on what you've seen so far, I think you know the answer, right? And so kind of like my video where we looked at Cardinal Sarah, I think we kind of have the same conclusion here. Now, there's always miracles that could happen. There's always extraordinary things that could happen. You never know. There's always been, there's been uh, you know, surprise people who are elected. Could happen, right? But what are the chances? Is it extremely remote? Is it likely? I think you kind of know the answer at this point. And I do see a few people mentioning Cardinal Pizzaballa. I have spoken about him in a few other videos where I did kind of a top 5 contenders right now, and he was among them. He is your wild card. He's an interesting one. He might be. I could possibly see Cardinal Pizzaballa being one, but again, he is your one of the wild cards, and so I don't know if he's highly likely to get it. Maybe we can kind of take a look at that in a different episode here. That might be worth exploring. I did find an interesting picture of Cardinal Pizzaballa that I think you might be interested in seeing. Let me actually pull it up here. I think you'll like this, or like seeing this at least, as it will be at the very least entertaining. And this is a real picture. This is not a fake picture, what I'm about to show to you. But here we go. Let me pull it up. It was in a Facebook chat, and I posted it for someone to examine. They were posting pictures of Cardinal Pizzaballa wearing a Palestinian keffiyeh, and he's really strongly in support of people in the Middle East and their plight, and doesn't seem to be very much in favor of what Israel is doing and Gaza and stuff like that. And so he's visited Gaza. He actually offered himself to be a hostage to Hamas in exchange for the Israeli prisoners. But he, as I showed in this picture, I thought this one was interesting because here he's wearing a Saudi shamak, or this is the headscarf that Saudis wear, usually Muslims. And here he's wearing a bisht, which is also usually something that Muslims wear. So if you watch, Muslim imams and sheikhs, reciting the Quran, they're usually wearing something like this. Or if you watch someone in Mecca at the Kaaba reciting the Quran, they're usually wearing this. And you can see he's wearing it with his cardinal cassock on. And so this is pretty recent because he was just very recently made a cardinal. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know what's going on there, but somebody posted something with him with a keffiyeh. I said, "Oh, you need to take a look at this one. I don't know what's going on here." Anyways, Pizzaballa is a fascinating character. I have again done kind of a video or two already on him, but maybe we'll do a deep dive, something like what we did today on Cardinal Burke, and as we've done with Cardinal Sarah. If you want to see more like this, maybe if you want to see an in-depth one on Pizzaballa, let me know. Put it in the comment section, and perhaps I could do that next. I also do want to do a video on Pope Francis's legacy, the good and the bad from his pontificate. I want to do that before May 7th, because I think that would help kind of give some closure to that pontificate and analyzing it. And then moving forward, we're going to be analyzing the College of Cardinals and who they're voting for and what's going on with that, and then analyzing the next pontificate. But we kind of need to have a final stream analyzing Pope Francis's pontificate, kind of a summary stream, put a bow on it, and be done with it and move forward. So yeah, I see some people calling for that deep dive on Pizzaballa. Yes, for the deep dive. Okay, interesting. Yes, the Pizzaballa deep dive. So I'd be happy to do that. I think that we'll need to do that within the next few days, because right now we're May 3rd, right? And so May 7th, right around the corner, And so going to be covering that in great detail right here on Reason and Theology, Michael Lofton Show. So if you want to stay in tune with what's going on with the College of Cardinals, who they are thinking about electing, conversations about that, the actual process of electing a pope, you need to go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now so you can stay tuned. And by the way, I cover numerous other things aside from just this. And so you need to hit the sub button. Will I be doing a live stream watching the Why and Smoke? Yes, I will, of course. I will be covering that live. So if you want to watch that commentary that you appreciate from RNT, you need to go ahead, hit that sub button if you haven't already. Really would also appreciate that support by hitting the like button and considering supporting the channel financially at Patreon. Great place to do it. Or right here on YouTube by hitting the join button right next to the subscribe button. You get access to extra patron-only content and might actually do a show later on today for patrons, if not tomorrow. And you get plenty of extra material there, but you also support this channel so I can continue to produce just numerous content available to the public for free. I mean, look at my videos. At this point, I think I have maybe over 4,000 videos that I've produced in not even a full 6 years. I've put out a lot of information, a lot of material, a lot of work. And if you appreciate that and you want to see it continue, please consider supporting the channel or visit rtcourses.com where I offer some of my courses either on the magisterium or ecumenical councils. Go and check it out. There's also free resources there as well. rtcourses.com. Carlos says, appreciate the content. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and appreciate you being a member right here on YouTube. So thank you so much. Tess says, thank you. I appreciate you. Top 10 Michael video tier list. Billy says, oh boy, I don't know. That'd be a tough one. Ranking my videos top 10. I don't know. Y'all tell me what the top 10 is. Y'all put that in the comment section. That's more for y'all to determine. So anyways, so Syndrome says the next pope will be conservative, whether lean or hardline, anything is better than Francis. I don't know if that's what you're going to get. I mean, look at the College of Cardinals who are electing again the next pope. How many of them are actually conservative? Not 2/3 of them. Not even 50% of them are conservative. Is that then what you're going to get? Tough one, right? Tough one. You'd have to get a lot of the liberals and progressives to vote for a conservative at that point. So you do the math, right? So wig Michael, Jimmy says, maybe I'll have to get a wig for the live stream. Maybe we can do that, right? Anyways, y'all, I'm done. I'm done with y'all. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Check me out Patreon or check my courses out at rtcourses.com. See y'all tomorrow for another video. Stay tuned.